Welcome to the Buff Show podcast on the American Adversaries Radio Network. Good to be with you. Matt Buff here, your host, and I'm brought to you in conjunction with the American Adversaries Radio Show. And you can listen to Chris Hart and all the cool people on that show live at 5 p.m. every Sunday through Friday at AmericanAdversaries.com, or of course over the airwaves here in Central Florida on AM 950 and FM 94.9. And also you can check out The Buff Show, part of the American Adversaries Radio Show Network, Saturdays at 3 p.m. That's Eastern Time. All the times I said are Eastern Time, so no confusion there. I am Matt Buff, like I said, and I'm joined in studio in the great studios of Hal Scott Magaro by the philosopher and political mad scientist, host of the American Adversaries Radio Show Network, Christopher Hart. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you again, Matt, as always.
It's a great hot day out there today. It's been a hot week.
And a hot summer.
A hot summer, and the summer of love in Seattle is the summer of love no more.
Summer of love it turned out to be infatuation. Not
really
love at all.
That's right. And they opened up some of the states, and oh my God, the COVID tests are spiking in a high direction, they say, all morning on the news. I don't care which news network you're like, they're calling it a surge, a spike, and it's just that herd immunity working itself out. But Chris, the left, they're freaking out there, and a lot of scaredy cats are joining them.
Indeed they are. We have Texas backing up this morning. Just as we get ready to sit down to do this podcast, Governor Abbott announced that they are going to close the bars again, reclosing the bars, and reducing restaurant capacity from 75% back to 50%. So Texas is backing up. Florida, Arizona, California, other states as well are slowing down with their plans to move forward. And as the test results do turn up, a lot more positive results. Now, having said that, on these very podcasts, I don't know, it was this third or fourth series that we did, we talked about the numbers of COVID-19. We talked about how rapidly and how easily pretty much this spreads amongst healthy people because they don't get the symptoms. They're asymptomatic, many of them, or slight symptoms that they just mistake maybe for a hangover or a cold or something that lasts a couple of days. And so it spread. And that when the testing really began to ramp up, we would find that I believe, and you can go back and check the archive of the podcast, I said there was probably about 50 million Americans who had been infected.
That was on our, we called it the Wuhan, China Democrat hoax podcast. And there was a good series of those that are labeled with that term. You can find those on our YouTube channel, also on our collective websites. And it's really easy to find those podcasts to prove that what Chris is saying, we did say, and we recorded ourselves saying it. Yeah. We talked about specific stories, like with my wife who felt all the symptoms. The doctor couldn't figure out what it was. That was in December. We talked about fellow Salem radio host
Mike Gallagher, who turned out it was negative in his case.
Yes.
But as I said, there were a lot of people who didn't have it, thought they did. A lot of people who didn't.
Yes.
But the point that we made was that when they started testing, they were going to discover that this was much more widespread. Well, lo and behold, just yesterday, the CDC announced that this disease is much more widespread than we thought. They think, as a matter of fact, how about that? They think, as a matter of fact, that the positive test results number, which is now well over 2 million, is about 10% of the actual infection rate, which would make it well over 20 million. That's not 50, but it's getting there.
Sure.
And the point is, and by the way, this morning as I was making my way over here, I drove past an Advent Health. For those of you who don't live here in Central Florida, Advent Health is a major hospital organization here. Huge, as a matter of fact, nonprofit. But they are doing testing at their Advent clinics. They have these clinics set up around town where if you sprain an ankle or cut yourself or something or have an infection, you can go there and they'll do a diagnosis rather than going to your doctor's office or emergency room. Well, I noticed this morning that there was a long line outside, and the people were about 6 feet apart, and they were all wearing masks, which is required here in Orange County now, and they were all young people. So I drove around the corner and pulled up and stopped, and I said, "Excuse me." And one fellow looked over. Actually, several looked over, and one fellow said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you folks standing in line to get tested for the bug?" And everybody that was looking at me nodded their head. And so people, are by the hordes now getting tested, which is okay. It's a good thing.
Sure, do it. If that's what you want to do, go get tested.
And most of these people now were standing up. They looked very healthy. Many people who are getting tested here in Florida and around the country are being tested because they have to be tested to go back to work, or they have to be tested because they want to travel. For instance, Maine has a policy that if you're traveling to Maine from Florida, you have to have a certification that shows you've been tested negative within the last 2 days. And who knows, they may change that to match New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut's policy. It doesn't matter as long as you come here from Florida, 2 weeks quarantine. So
that's payback for what we were doing to them for bringing
Ron DeSantis did.
Yeah, because they brought the China virus to us. I mean, if they want to play tit for tat like that, but that is payback.
But there's something interesting also in what you just said, in that earlier on, the spikes were in New York, in Washington State, in Massachusetts, in New Jersey. Now they're down here. And something interesting is that what New York discovered is that many of the cases, matter of fact, most of the cases, the majority of the cases were coming from people who had sequestered themselves inside their house, who had shut themselves in.
25% of deaths were from shut-in and people unemployed and things like that.
And about 60% of hospitalizations.
Yes.
And we seem to be seeing something similar here because it's all the states where the temperature is hot right now, which normally, now this is something that does surprise me, is that this disease did not fade out in the summer. It seems to seek the heat, right? Because if you're in the Northeast, shut inside your house in the winter, what do you have running during the time while
your heater?
Bingo. And here in Florida, the heat, we started talking about the summer, right? And we're in a heat wave right now. And we had a warm spring, and now we're having the heat, and people are staying inside their houses more, right, with the air conditioning, but in a hotter environment. So what we're seeing is this bug is going to do what it's going to do.
But it seems to be weakened by the heat because of the hospital rates, and the death rates are either holding steady or in a lot of cases just going down.
Well, here in Florida, for instance, the average age of people who are testing positive has gone from in the 60s over the last couple of weeks down to the mid-30s.
Right.
And as I said, the people in the line this morning were all young people. I would
healthy people standing there.
So it is a situation where the people who the disease affects the least are the ones now getting it the most, and which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We've talked about herd immunity on this show
many times.
Right. The bug is going to get its way. It's going to have its way. It's going to get herd immunity one way or the other, right? Either we're going to stretch it out and make the pain last as long as possible, or we let it get it over with. And unfortunately, that is the two courses that we have.
Well, that's right. And on that note, Sweden put out a report today. A government official said, stop saying we're in trouble.
They're not.
Stop saying we're all dying here. Stop saying that Sweden is a hotspot, this and that. We are dealing with it, and people are fine. And you're right, Chris. Herd immunity is going to work itself because you can't stay shut in forever. You're eventually going to have to let this thing do its thing. And like you said, the virus is going to do its thing anyway, whether you stay inside or not. And it's burning through the system. And the 98% recovery rate on average is a great thing.
It is indeed. And by the way, something else that we've been saying, and other scientists and immunologists and the like, people that study this sort of thing, these aren't the people you've been seeing in the media, of course, but they have also been saying that we're going to have to learn how to live with this. We're going to have, because it's not going to go away until it does get herd immunity, or we do come up with a vaccine. And even in those cases, the bug is still going to be lingering out there. We're just going to have to learn how to live with it. We're going to have to learn how to take care of ourselves.
Wash our hands.
And I'm not talking about wearing masks forever. I'm not talking about standing 6 feet apart forever.
No.
I'm talking about getting back to our lives as we should enjoy them and understanding that this is out there just like thousands, if not tens of thousands of other viruses that can kill you.
That's right. Do you think this is the first time China has sent us a gift like this? Absolutely not.
Well, as a matter of fact, I want to talk about that because we've talked on the show before about how China is conducting 21st century warfare against the United States of America. It's not battlefield warfare. It's warfare being conducted within our very country and within our cities. I want to talk more about that when we come back. And I also want to talk about, as I said, the Wall Street Journal now. You got to learn how to live with it. That's what we've been saying. CDC, a lot more infections in the tens of millions. That's what we've been saying.
That's learning to live with it,
right.
And with more testing, yes.
When we come back, I want to talk about what the Washington Post is now saying about conservative voices like our own.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break and get back to all that and more, why people want lockdowns to continue. We're going to talk more about that as well. So much more on the show. Stay with us. We're broadcasting from the Hal Scott Magaro Studios here in beautiful shutdown Orlando. Have to wear a mask in Orlando. That's where we're broadcasting from. But come see us at Hal Scott Magaro when you need the right appellate law firm on your side. We'll be right back on the Buff Show podcast. You stay with us.
Action Plus Pressure Cleaning is the official pressure washing company of The Buff Show. While Matt's doing the dirty work on the show, Action Plus Pressure Washing has been doing the dirty work for the last 15 years in Central Florida. They use a soft wash system to clean pool enclosures, driveways, pool decks, houses, and commercial property. They even clean large and small parking lots and buildings. Wow! Action Plus offers other services such as lawn maintenance, one-time service to weekly service, mowing, weeding, edging, and trimming, and hauling away debris. You can get more than one service, and they offer bundle pricing. Check out their weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly services for lawn maintenance and ask about their free standard 2 driveway with house wash services. Family owned and operated. Get your free estimate at actionpluspressurecleaning.com or call 386-506-1048. That's 386-506-1048. Action Plus Pressure Cleaning. They aim to please.
Welcome back to the Buff Show podcast. Myself, along with Christopher Hart, the political mad scientist and philosopher.
Hey!
And a lot of people think they're philosophers out there. You were talking about a Washington Post story, and there's a lot of this going around where people want to blame us for everything.
Let's review just a little bit, okay?
Let's go back and talk about this. I just didn't want to forget it.
All right, we talked about in the last segment how there is an escalated number of positive results going on out there. By the way,
we called that.
Hospitalizations, nonetheless, are trending downward, and deaths have dropped dramatically. And so the mortality rate, the death rate from this disease is dropping down to what we said it would be, down under 1%, probably down under 0.5%.
Yes.
And by the way, the typical flu season death rate is about 0.3%. So this is going to turn out to be somewhere down in that neighborhood.
Yes,
Okay?
indeed. Now, we have to dispel another fake news story that's going around as recently as this morning, because everybody's looking at a Texas hospital at 97% capacity, and they're like, oh, my God, here it is. The hospital's being overrun. Number one, people that couldn't get their surgeries done are now coming back, and 25% of those are COVID, only 25% of those.
Right.
And they typically trend about an 85% capacity rate anyway in that hospital.
Yeah.
So I just wanted us to talk about that for a second,
Right.
Chris, because that's one of the main ticker news stories for the liberal media.
See, the trick of the liberal media is to take a little nougat of truth and blow it into a big lie.
Exactly.
Okay, and what they've done is, you're absolutely right, the hospitals are back in business, they're doing normal business, and they're handling COVID cases, and no, they're not overrun. Bottom line is, we were right on the numbers then, we're right on the numbers now.
Yes.
And the CDC has said, indeed, this infection rate nationwide is in the tens of millions. Okay, which means that a lot of people, it affects them very slightly.
Most asymptomatic.
It's in some ways not even as bad as the flu.
Right.
Because most people who get the flu suffer pretty severe symptoms from it. From this, most of the people who get it don't suffer any symptoms at all. At all. And that's part of what was the problem with it sneaking into nursing homes. Because the people who are most vulnerable did get it, as well as the people who were not vulnerable.
That's why you had that huge spike in deaths in New York, because they were packing them in the nursing homes.
All right, so the CDC backed us up on the numbers. The Wall Street Journal has come out and said, look, we're going to have to learn how to deal with this and without destroying our economy and our whole civilization. And then you had the Washington Post come out. And so we've been right on the numbers.
And CDC, we forgive you, but listen to us from now on. Clearly, we know more than some of you guys do.
Yeah. And then here comes the shoe dropping.
Yes.
Okay? The Washington Post has written articles, and there are others out there saying this as well, and we predicted it on the American Adversaries radio show, and that is they're blaming Trump, conservatives, and now, in particular, the Washington Post is blaming conservative media, us. Now, they mention people like Hannity and others, but they're talking about people like us who are telling you the truth, for God's sake.
We're not trying to scare you with stuff.
And by the way, it was the Washington Post, along with Dr. Fauci, early on, who were telling us, don't worry, be happy. Right?
And don't wear a mask if you're healthy.
And now they're the ones blaming us for misleading people into dying from this disease, which is another indicator that this has never really been about the disease at all. This ain't about the disease. They don't give a goddamn if you get the disease or not. As a matter of fact, the more people out there who get it, the happier the liberals are, because they're using that as a bludgeon against all conservatives. Trump is the face. Okay, he's the face right now of conservatism, which is why he bears the brunt of the attack. But let me tell you this, and you better not forget it. They're coming after every damn one of us. Every one of us. And they're coming after us in a way where I'm not just saying, they want to take these guys off the air and stuff like that. They're coming after the First Amendment. That's what this is all about. We're the face of the First Amendment, ugly as we may be. But we're the face of the First Amendment. And the very people who benefit the most from the First Amendment are the ones who are right now trying to undermine it. The Washington Post, of all people, blaming people out there who are engaging in vigorous debate as being, in essence, murderers. That's what they're doing. We cannot allow this.
That is the antithesis of socialism leadership right there. If someone gets out of line, or in a communist, think of a communist country, a communist dictatorship, who gets punished? The people that question it and people get out of line. And now the Washington Post is saying blood is on the hands and naming specific people. Out of control, Chris. It is a war on conservatism.
It's actually the thesis of socialism. Capitalism is the antithesis, but I get your point.
Thanks for the correction there, because that's exactly, when you get fired up, I start stumbling around and getting fired up too, because it's ridiculous. If somebody gets out of line, if you're not in lockstep, I do the same thing when I'm talking to Seminole County on their page, and everybody gets mad. How dare this guy say we shouldn't mandate masks? How dare this guy say this? You know, some of us, just because you're telling us we should do some people are going to question why you're telling us to do it.
Well, and see, that's the point. These people don't want to be questioned as to why they're doing it.
Yes.
Because most of the damn fools don't have any clue as to why they're doing it. Oh, Dr. Fauci said you got to wear a mask.
Oh, Lord Fauci. Fauci, thank you for saving us.
Yeah, you got these little spittles floating around in the air and all of this stuff. And yet, better stay 6 feet apart, too. I mean, okay, if I'm going to wear a mask, can I get close to somebody?
Yeah, if they're wearing a mask, can I get close to them? Because they're clearly protected.
Right. I mean, see, this is all about body control, which leads to mind control. And we've talked about this before, about how this is very much like the People's Temple. They may as well call it the People's Temple. You know why? We told you about Jim Jones.
Yeah,
why he called it the People's Temple. Because it wasn't about God or Jesus. It was about socialism. And that's what this is all about.
Mind
socialism,
control.
Right. And undermining everything, every tool that conservatives can use to play a role in society. And the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, all of these things are tools that we use to play a role in society. And they want to take them all away. The Washington Post, this illustrates the idiocy of these fools. By going after us, going after conservative voices, the stupid idiots are setting up a noose to hang themselves with.
Not a garage door pull down.
No.
A noose.
No. The metaphor here is these damn fools are killing themselves in their efforts to take us out.
Yes, indeed.
Now, when we come back, I want to talk more about China's role in all of this and the funding and what's really going on here, which is this march toward socialism. And they're no longer making any bones about it. They're being in our faces about it, almost daring us to do something about it. Well, we damn well better.
Well, the ink wasn't quite dry on the China trade deal with the United States. Shortly after that, we start learning about the Kung Flu Wuhan virus China thing.
Well, China's got their hand in a whole lot more than bat poop.
Well, we're going to get into that when we come back on the Buff Show podcast with Matt Buff and Christopher Hart. We're broadcasting from the Appeals Law Group, Hal Scott Magaro. Visit them at appealslawgroup.com. Stay with us. Don't scroll down or up or change that dial or whatever you say on social media.
We'll be right back.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Since 2012, Cellulartronics has been providing Central Florida with the best phone repair and electronics repair. We fix all electronics from iPhone, Samsung, Sony, and many more. We also do TV repair and fix your tablets. Right now, you can get a glass back cover for the iPhone 8 to an iPhone X for only $95. iPhone 11 and up, back covers are only $120. We have 2 locations to serve you in Sanford and DeBary. Visit Cellulartronics.com or call 407-302-3396. That's Cellulartronics.com or 407-302-3396.
Welcome back to the Buff Show podcast. Rolling along on this very dull news day. Not much to talk about. Matt Buff here with Christopher Hart. Just not a lot going on, is there?
No. We got to elect Joe Biden so we'll have something to talk about. Huh?
Oh, my goodness. What a train wreck.
He is indeed. He is indeed.
120 million died, and that's the first time he ventured out of the basement. He's sitting there with a group of people, and it was just really boring, the conversation.
Right.
But he goes, we got 120 million deaths. And all of a sudden, the feed cuts. His team is like, you know what? We're not going to give them any more. We're just going to put him back in the basement and run commercials that other people write.
Well, more and more. As a matter of fact, once again, Washington Post this morning and other media outlets are out there encouraging basically Joe Biden not to do debates. Now, they're cloaking it as the debate idea is a bad idea, especially with COVID-19 and all of that.
Social distancing.
They don't want Joe Biden to be on a debate stage with Donald Trump. And we've been saying that for about a year on the American Adversaries Radio Show. As long as we've been saying that Biden was going to be the nominee, we've also been saying he wasn't going to be on a debate stage with Donald J. Trump. Ain't going to happen.
That's right. During the Democrat Party, I remember being in studio with you at Salem Media, and we were talking around the room like we were doing bets, how many debates do you think Joe Biden will agree to? And I believe you said 3, but you said he doesn't want to do any if he can get away with it.
They would agree to anything.
Yeah.
But actually doing it's another thing. And so what they're going to do is, we were talking about this on the show the other night, what they'll do is they'll set up a situation where it'll be impossible for President Trump to agree to it. And then they'll blame it on him. This is the Democrats are very clever about that. And as long as you have a compliant media, to drive the point home and sit there with the serious looks on their faces and their microphones and their masks and you go, why, Mr. Trump, are you afraid to debate Joe Biden? They'll be able to sell it. Once again, this is all about, it's like professional wrestling. And professional wrestling have an expression that, say they have a wrestler that goes in and they want him to be a bad guy and they've got a little routine, a script written for him, and he goes out there and the audience looks at it and they go, boring, boring. Or he goes back behind stage and say, well, it didn't go over, did it? The expression getting over means the audience accepts what you're doing. So if the bad guy goes out there and beats the hell out of the good guy and the audience loves it or hates it, and they go, oh, you bastard, you son of a, we hate your guts. You got over big, man. You did it. You see,
like Andy Kaufman was a great bad guy wrestler because the crowd hated him.
Right.
They sold that. It hurt him so bad in his personal life.
It got over, though. It got over with the audience.
It worked.
And this is what happens when you have a compliant media. You can take any line of bullshit you want, and as long as they can sell it, it'll go over.
Yes.
It'll go. You got so many fools out there who are more than willing to believe anything that Brian Williams or
Lester Holt.
Fredo, Holt, you name them.
I'm so serious. Astute.
Right, because they're all saying the same thing. It must be true.
Right.
Right, they all say it. Must be true. That's the level
Here's your
of mentality.
talking points, everyone.
Right. So for Biden, his best advice, his best strategy is to stay out of the way. Because the media is making this election all about Donald Trump and the state of the country. And that's why they want the state of the country to be as hellish as possible. Because they're going to hang all that on Trump. See, this is Trump's America for you. This is what making America great again. Got you, right? This is America first. This is. So they destroy the country. They do the stuff that they always hang on somebody else. They're so good at projecting things on others. Things that they do, they project on the other side. Lying, cheating, stealing. No, it's not them. It's always the Republicans that do that. And as long as you have the media out there who are sucking up to it and spewing it out, it's pretty easy to go over or get over. And so that's the situation we have. And then you have a player like China, all right, who's playing into this situation as well. We've talked about how China is conducting a modern warfare against the United States of America. And it's a warfare that is so devastatingly sinister and clever that it's happening right to us, and we can't even see it. It's like a weapon that you can't see. It weaponized the virus. They weaponized the virus, whether they created it as a weapon or not. They weaponized it when they let it loose on the world and didn't tell the world about it.
And lied about it, in fact, when it came to person-to-person transmission.
Right.
And then just kept it a secret as long as they possibly could.
Right.
Why did they do that? There has to be something either sinister or political or something else behind it. Maybe it was simply, we don't want to look bad. We don't want to look bad.
Why
I don't believe that.
Is that they want to destroy the United States of America. They have a long-term goal of doing that. They make no bones about it. This is the communist goal anyway. Marxism is a worldwide ideology. It doesn't work well in one country or two or 10. For Marxism to truly be to come to its fruition, it has to be a worldwide thing. So that's the way the communists think. So China's never enough. The world is never enough kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So the situation is China is now involved also in the violence going on in our cities. Now, I don't see any Chinese people out there. I don't see any communists out there. They don't have to be. They got all the stupid idiots and stooges, what Vladimir Lenin called the useful idiots, doing all of for them. All they have to do is provide the seeds and the seed money. And they are doing exactly that. It is a situation where they are now in full cooperation with people in the West. There's an article that's out. By the way, Fox News is carrying it, but you can find this article at the website for the World Economic Forum. Okay? The World Economic Forum, we hear about this about once a year. Going to have the World Economic Forum in Davos. They're going to go to Davos.
Because it's so elegant.
Yeah.
Class.
All the news channels have their anchors go over to Davos, and they sit there in their coats because it's all cold over there and all this stuff. And
we're coming to you from Davos.
Yes, and you got all the rich people in the world there. The high-fluting elite are all there. And
sipping tea and
talk about what they're going to do to us stooges, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's what they're talking about now. They're talking about using this opportunity. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Using this opportunity to have they're calling a great reset. Now, Al Gore himself talked about this recently on the Today Show. All right. The purpose I'm reading now, the purpose of the great reset isn't merely to enact policies that would lead to additional wealth redistribution. That was Obama.
If you're not scared to death by now,
right,
you surely would be.
Let me finish. All right, let me start again. The purpose of the Great Reset isn't merely to enact policies that would lead to additional wealth redistribution, that would be Obamonomics, but rather to completely overhaul the world's existing structures and institutions, including, of course, capitalism. They want to restructure capitalism so that it is more equitable, so that it is more socially justice. All of this stuff you hear chanted in the street, that's what the elites want to do to our economy.
Wouldn't that be
and they're
great
going to
if there
use
was
this
no
pandemic.
more poor?
That's what they're going to use this pandemic to do. That is the illusion. Oh yeah, just we'll take, we're going to redistribute wealth. We're going to redesign institutions and social contracts. You know what social contracts are? You ever heard of a constitution? The Constitution is our social contract. It is the deal that we have with our government.
They took a chance and put that document in place and set up this government, and it worked.
Every society has a social contract.
Yes, indeed.
Okay?
Ours worked.
Well, they all work to some degree.
Yeah.
The question is there much liberty involved if
How
it
much
works?
freedom and liberty, yes.
The Soviet Union had a social contract in the form of a constitution.
Yes.
And if you want to know what it said, just listen to Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or now even Joe Biden. Free college, okay? They provided free education. Only they decided who would get the college. And if they're giving away free college, does that mean everybody can go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever? No, they will decide who goes.
Re-education and free education.
All right, so free education. They also said you would be provided a housing. Was it, nice place, with all the amenities and everything? No, it was a dump.
And you had roommates.
Right. They provided you a job. Was it the job that you wanted or a job that you could excel at and
get
go
raises?
Go the ladder and everything? No. It was a job they determined for you. They guaranteed you everything in the contract, in the Constitution, the contract, but what you got sucked. And so what we have in our social contract is liberty. It's based on liberty and our rights coming from our Creator. And when they say they want to rewrite the social contract, that's what they want to do away with the Constitution. Let's take a break and come back.
We got so much more to cover in our final segment coming up here.
And talk about how Black Lives Matter plays into this.
Yes, we're talking about the organization because on the Buff Show podcast, we think all lives matter. When we talk about this organization, you might be surprised on what we have found out and what you should know about. Stay with us right here on the Buff Show podcast. We'll be right back.
A boring website can make your company look really bad. Poor rankings on Google, Yahoo, and Bing means your company does not exist to thousands of monthly searchers. I'm not even on the front page. Come out of hiding with JJC Marketing Solutions and get found to more and more new customers every day. At JJC Marketing Solutions, they offer state-of-the-art website creation, Google SEO, PPC campaigns, and social media marketing that makes your company stand out. No need to go with those national companies that only care about you on the first call. JJC Marketing is located right here in Sanford, and the goal is to help businesses like yours succeed. Get better results. Call 321-765-7710 or visit them at jjcmarketingsolutions.com.
I'm somebody now!
JJC Marketing Solutions.
Welcome back to the Buff Show podcast, along with myself, Matt Buff, and the philosopher and political mad scientist, Christopher Hart.
Hey, Matt.
That last segment was a great one. I thought it was really good because when you follow the money, it leads you to the answers, and the money from China is coming in, the not just the biological part of things, but the social control. And you were talking about the social contracts and how places and elites want to hit the reset button on capitalism. Didn't work out too well with Venezuela, as we saw. That was a good model to follow on how things work when you try to hit the reset button and go to a more socialist platform. But also with the when you're talking about China doing control on these political figures, there's also control coming in on organizations within our country.
Let's put it a different way, because control, people say, oh, conspiracy theories, fools. It is much more subtle than that, all right? And it isn't so much control as it is cooperation. See, here's the sad part about it, Matt. The Chinese aren't controlling the liberal elite. They're working with them. This isn't a matter of them trying to take over these World Economic Forum types. It's a matter of them working with them because they all have the same goal. All right? They may just express it differently, but the goal is socialism. Okay, that's what they mean when they social justice and economic equality.
And it's very well funded to keep them on their side, too.
So what happens is China, as well as the rich elite, and I'm talking about the world's billionaires. Isn't it interesting that all the world's billionaires, whether they are in Saudi Arabia, whether they are in China, whether they are in Russia, whether they are in the United States of America, they're all a bunch of liberal sons of bitches.
They really are.
They are.
It's because expensive to be a liberal.
And not only are they liberal, but they came to their billions via capitalism. Right?
Yes, indeed.
And it is they who want to change all of that. They who are the ones who, with their billions, actually trillions, want to fund the changing of our world into a one world socialist world order.
Because
and
it
they
doesn't
have the
affect
money
them
to do
personally. It doesn't affect them personally.
It will eventually, but they think that it's the best thing to do. That these people they have drank their own Kool-Aid. As I said, they're of the mindset of Jim Jones. They think that they have the answers. They have put themselves in the position of being our God, our Lord, our Savior.
Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Follow me and I will bring you a cure.
Yeah, we're going to give you the vaccine. And by the way, they have announced, at least his squeeze, Melinda, wants to give it to African Americans first. Okay, fine.
Why? No, just because we should.
And I would say probably because they are the ones who would be most likely to allow it to happen. Yeah, look at what they allow to happen to their babies. 50% of them slaughtered every day. 50% black babies. How in the hell does that matter? Doesn't that matter to anybody?
When Margaret Sanger started this organization, it was to exterminate the black community.
Black and people of lower intelligence, you see. It never stops with one group or one race. It always starts with one group or one race. You see?
Then we'll go from there.
And right now it happens to be the white race. Okay? But let me tell you something. This attitude toward white people right now is really the attitude they have toward all people. It's just being expressed towards white people. And then you have idiots like this Black Lives Matter movement, right? And in their manifesto, they call for the end of society, the end of families. You know, it is insane. What they are actually calling for is the end of the human race. And by the way, this economic forum, this World Economic Forum business, and once again, you can go to their website and see this article. They talk openly about how we need to do this because we have to be better prepared to deal with pandemics, climate change, and all the other crises that are going to be coming our way. Somehow they think that socialism, which is a form of dictatorship, is going to be more effective with dealing with those things. In some sense, it will be. It'll be quicker and more efficient, but there won't be any freedom or liberty.
Won't be any fun.
No, of course not.
There won't be
do you
good
know,
times.
Do you know a liberal who is a happy person?
No, I do not. In fact, I was talking with a liberal just yesterday, and I was just saying, do you understand in this conversation, you have the furrowed brow and you're angry, and I'm sitting here going, you know what, that's actually not true. It's this, this, and this, and I'm the happy one. Yeah. And people are mad at us for being happy, like on the masks. How can you sit there? You're a murderer if you walk around without a mask. Where do you get it?
But don't you see?
They're so angry, Chris.
But they're being driven by these people that we're talking about. This funding, this mass funding, is driving this campaign of hate. It is a campaign of hate that is going on. And it is a situation where they're going to push it to the limit. And here's a little twist for you. I mentioned this on the radio show the other day. In a lot of ways, I'm pretty sure the Democrats want Donald Trump to win re-election.
Well, we know the media wants that.
Well, it isn't some. It's that they can use his presidency in their mind to continue to destroy America, just like they're doing now. Now, if Joe Biden wins, they're going to retain the House and most likely take back the Senate. And they got one hell of a mess, okay, that they created themselves that now people will be looking at them to clean up.
Like the rioting and the looting.
Which they have no clue how to do. We
Right.
can see from their own cities, okay? Nor do they have any motivation to do it. But they don't want to be caught in the act of openly destroying America. Better have Donald Trump be reelected, destroy America, and blame it on him, just like they're doing right now.
We can give you a real example. Take the CHOP situation in Seattle. They want Donald Trump to send in the military. They want him to do it. They're daring him to do it without being outward and vocal about it. But they want him to do it because they say, look at this. He's a fascist dictator.
Right.
He is killing the summer of love. But
Now,
you know what Donald Trump did? And we were begging him on our shows to say, just let it play out.
Well,
some of us. And then the death happened. And then they got a mess on their hands, and now they have to clean it up. So what you just said, I have to hit back on what you just said, because when you're rooting it on, but then you're the one that has to deal with it, like that mayor, all right?
Right.
Now this mess is in her lap because the president's, you know what? It's your problem. And now she's retracting her own words.
You, in fact, just reinforced what I said.
Yes.
The Democrats do not want to be charged with cleaning up their own mess.
They don't want that.
It ain't going to be easy. The CHOP people, the Chaz people have already said they're not going to go away. You have this mayor now who's created this mess, the so-called Summer of Love, which was infatuation, I guess, because that's over with. But if she sends in her police, what does that make her look like?
A hypocrite.
And you got the city being sued now by the business
owners,
people, the people in and around who we were being told these last few weeks were just fine with it. You know, it was just festival atmosphere here and all this bullshit, and now they're getting sued over it, and they don't know what the hell to do about it.
No.
See, and that would be the situation should Biden win in the fall, which is why I believe they want Trump to win. Now, I'm not making an argument to vote for Biden. Oh, God, I got to vote for Biden.
Chris Hart said I had to vote for Biden.
It's going to be even worse because, once again, Biden won't know what to do about it.
No.
And it will run amok even more. No, we need a law and order president. We need Donald Trump to win. We need to help him win big. We need to retain the Senate, which ain't going to be easy. And we need to take back the House, which is going to be nearly impossible. Okay? But those are the things we need to do. All right? Now, if we fall short, we're going to pay the price for it. And if we are victorious, the fight will not be over. I will guarantee you that. In fact, it may intensify.
It may get worse. I've been saying this on the shows when you're talking about the pandemics and the riots and the amplifying a situation so bad. You talked about that in the first section. They take one little smidgen of truth, like the hospitals in Texas, and they amplify it. I believe, and this is something we have to be ready to deal with because it's worth dealing with it, guys. It's worth dealing with it, but it's going to get worse. They are going to try to make chaos, pin it on Trump. Chaos, pin it on Trump.
Well, not only that, but chaos in order to make this great reset. Once again, this isn't so much about Trump. It's about the reset and using this opportunity to dramatically change the way we have ordered our lives for the last 300 years plus. And that's what's going on here. We cannot lose sight of that. Pulling down the statues, that's not about the South and Confederacy. It's about the United States and the Constitution and everything that we stand for, the Judeo-Christian heritage. All of this is at stake. All of this is being ripped down. And it's being funded and sponsored by these elite idiots and the Chinese and probably the Russians, the Iranians, and everybody else out there who hates the United States.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Correct me if I'm wrong, but every time you're talking about the social contract, we're going to make a social contract with a new revolution. What's the first thing they did? They rip down the history. They get rid of the history. It's a true reset button. The statutes and stuff plays into that reset that you're talking about. If it's a complete reset, the Germans did it. The Nazis did it.
Look,
they celebrated doing it, and Muhammad Islam did it too.
What these elite are talking about is not just resetting the economy like in Europe.
No.
They're talking about the way we live in our houses.
That's
the size of a house that we have.
That's right.
All right, the amount of wealth that you have. They will come after all of it. Let's say you're a single guy that lives in a 5,000 square foot house because you made it big. They're going to determine that, no, Single guy should not have anything more than a 500 square foot. And a single guy doesn't need that much money. This is what they're talking about.
Changing the way
Everything.
you live.
Changing every damn thing.
That's right. Well, don't change the dial on 94.9 FM
Ever.
during the week. Transition.
Or Saturday.
But we're not joking around, Chris.
No, unfortunately not.
This election, and one final point on Joe Biden, you're not just getting Joe Biden and his policies with this election. You're getting a lot of people behind him that are thirsty, knowing that they can implement. You heard Bernie Sanders himself say, my job is to push him as far left as I possibly can.
What you're going to get with Joe Biden is the Great Reset.
You are.
What you're going to get with Donald Trump is a fighting chance to defeat the Great Reset. And that's what we have to do. We owe it to our ancestors, our children, and those yet to come. Because if we don't, they'll be born into a society of dictatorship. It will be a tyranny, and they will blame us, and they'll have good reason to.
Well, that's why we put on these hats and do our part. Chris, thanks a lot for joining us on the show for the podcast. It's always fun doing this with you. We have a great time, and we've been coming to you from the Hall Scott McGarrell Law Firm Studios. Visit them at appealslawgroup.com. Don't forget to listen to the American Adversaries radio show every Sunday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on AmericanAdversaries.com or on AM 950 and FM 94.9 in Central Florida. Also, check out The Buff Show at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays on 94.9 FM.
Yeah, The Buff Show.
Or on AmericanAdversaries.com or on our brand new website, TheBuffShow.com. So everywhere, it's getting hard not to listen to us.
That's
We're
right.
everywhere.
Love it.
All right, we'll see you next time, and you guys stay smart out there.